In this movie, Rose Cotter, a therapist, sees strange and creepy things after one of her patients dies in a scary way. She starts feeling like a dark curse is after her. Rose tries to understand and stop it. The curse keeps getting worse. Keep watching to know if she can get rid of the curse. At the beginning of the movie, a woman who had overdosed was found by her young daughter, Rose, lying in a mess. Later, Rose Cotter, who is now a therapist, was abruptly woken up by a phone call. She had a session with a patient named Carl, who was very disturbed and kept talking about death and how he was going to die. Rose tried to calm him down, explaining that his fears were not real, but Carl remained upset. Soon, Rose received a call to meet a young woman named Laura Weaver. A doctor informed Rose about Laura's case, mentioning that Laura had witnessed a horrifying event the previous week. A professor at Laura's school had killed himself with a hammer, and Laura was the only witness. When Rose visited Laura, she found her huddled in a corner. Rose introduced herself and tried to talk to Laura about her experiences. Laura revealed that she saw something others could not, which took on different forms. Laura said this thing smiled at her in a frightening way and told her she would die today. Rose tried to comfort Laura, explaining that intense trauma could cause such visions. However, when Rose turned away and then looked back, Laura started to panic. Rose saw that Laura had picked up a broken piece of glass and was showing a disturbing smile. She then began slashing her own throat and killed herself, leaving Rose in shock until help arrived. Later, Rose spoke with two detectives about the incident. One of them, named Joel, was her ex. Rose told them that Laura had been having paranoid delusions. Laura had been convinced that an evil presence was haunting her, and she had been smiling before she died. Rose went home, where she lived with her fiancé Trevor and their cat Mustache. That night, Rose, still upset by the day's events, saw Laura in her home, smiling and staring at her. Trevor startled her and asked what was wrong. Rose told him that one of her patients had died that day. The next evening, Rose and Trevor had dinner with Rose's sister, Holly, and Holly's husband, Greg. Holly scolded Rose for forgetting her son Jackson's upcoming birthday. Still shaken by Laura's death, Rose responded sharply. Following day, Rose tried to move on by going back to work. She visited the reception to ask for a police report about another incident involving Laura. While reading the report, she got a call from Holly, who apologized for their earlier argument. As Rose looked out the window, she thought she saw someone who looked like Laura in the distance. Holly asked Rose to at least get a birthday gift for Jackson. Later, Rose noticed Carl in his room with a disturbing smile similar to Laura's. When she tried to talk to him, Carl repeatedly warned her, saying, "You're going to die." Distressed, Rose called for help, but Carl was found asleep, leading to him being restrained by orderlies. Rose's supervisor, Dr. Morgan Desai, expressed concern about her mental health and gave her a paid week off. On her way home, Rose stopped at a shop to buy a gift for Jackson. That night, she was startled when the security alarm suddenly went off. She turned off the alarm and saw that the back door was open. Then the phone rang. A woman on the line said she was from the security service and asked some creepy questions. It turned out to be a malicious voice that taunted her. The woman told Rose to look behind her, and when Rose hung up, the phone rang again, making her jump. Later, while listening to Laura's recording, Rose heard a strange voice. When she turned up the volume, she heard her own name and saw Laura's ghost, which scared her a lot. Trevor came out after hearing Rose scream and was shocked to see her holding a knife. He told her to put the knife down. The next day, Rose went to see her therapist, Dr. Madeline, to talk about her frightening experiences. Madeline suggested that Rose might feel stuck because of her mother's suicide and asked if Rose still blamed herself. Rose admitted that since Laura's death, she had been seeing and hearing things, especially Laura. Madeline told Rose that her scary experiences were likely caused by Laura's incident, bringing up old fears. Over the weekend, Rose went to Jackson's birthday party. When Jackson opened her gift, which was supposed to be a toy train, he found Mustache's dead body instead. Rose was stunned and tried to explain that she didn't do it. But in the confusion, she saw one of the other moms with a scary grin, which no one else could see. Frightened, Rose fell backward through a glass table and had to go to the hospital. After learning about what happened, Morgan suggested that Rose take a break from work. When Trevor brought her home, Rose tried to explain that an evil spirit was threatening her, harming her patient. and now coming after her. Trevor didn't believe her, thinking she was losing her mind, and accused her of killing Mustache. Rose started looking into Laura's professor, Gabriel Munoz. While searching, she heard a faint voice calling her name. When she turned off the light, she saw her deceased mother standing behind her. The next day, Rose went to see Gabriel's widow, Victoria. Victoria told Rose that Gabriel had seen frightening visions before he disappeared and was later found dead. Gabriel had described these visions as something trying to get inside him. Victoria showed Rose some sketches and a painting related to Gabriel's experiences. She said Gabriel's visions started after he saw a woman die by suicide. When Rose talked about her own similar experiences, Victoria thought Rose was making fun of her and asked her to leave. Rose then went to Joel for help with her investigation. She asked him to check if Gabriel had been mentioned in any recent police reports, even though he was hesitant. Joel agreed and looked up Angela Powell, who had died after gouging her eyes out. Rose was shocked by her picture and asked Joel to search more about Angela. Joel found that Angela had also witnessed a man committing suicide, shown in security footage from a gas station, where the man had a creepy smile on his face. When Rose got back home, she found that Trevor had called Madeline to visit for a house call because they were worried about Rose's mental health. Rose got angry with Trevor, saying he only cared about how she made him look. She ended up breaking up with him and leaving in a hurry. Next, she went to Holly and told her that she was cursed. Rose explained that the curse came from Laura, but Holly thought Rose was having a breakdown like their mother did. Rose argued that Holly never tried to help their mother, and Rose had to take care of her until the end. Rose then went back to her car and thought she saw Holly coming towards her, but it was just the entity hunting. That night, Joel called Rose and told her he found 20 similar cases, all linked to 19 suicides. One victim, Robert, saw his business partner kill himself, and 4 days later, Robert killed a stranger. The eyewitness of that murder then committed suicide, continuing the pattern. Rose and Joel went to visit Robert in jail. Rose lied, saying she had a patient who saw a man kill himself and now saw something pretending to be other people. Robert asked her to get the cop to leave, and he would tell her what he knew. After Joel left, Robert told Rose that to break the curse, she had to kill someone in front of a witness so the curse would transfer. Rose said she couldn't kill anyone, and Robert became scared, thinking Rose had brought the entity with her. He was restrained by guards. When Rose returned home, she got a call from Madeline, but didn't answer. Later, Trevor texted her, saying they needed to talk. Madeline then came to her house to make sure Rose wasn't a danger. During their unexpected therapy session, phone rang, and Rose was shocked to hear Madeline's voice on the other end. It turned out to be the entity pretending to be Madeline, grinning and saying it was almost time. Feeling desperate, Rose drove to her work with a knife. She went into the building and found Carl's room. When Carl saw her, he was terrified and started screaming. Rose tried to calm him, but then Morgan ran in and saw Rose stabbing Carl over and over with the knife. Morgan screamed and seemed to tear his face off, but it turned out to be a nightmare Rose had after she fainted in her car. Morgan arrived and asked Rose to come inside, but she drove away when he saw her and the knife in her car. Rose got a call from Joel and told him she needed to be alone to stop the entity from spreading to others. She drove to her childhood home, where her mother had died. The house had no electricity. Rose went into her mother's room and remembered a moment from her childhood when her mother asked for help. Rose had run away instead. As it grew dark, Rose heard noises and found her mother crying in her room. Rose apologized, saying she hadn't been a good daughter. She asked if her mother was ashamed of her and why she hadn't saved her. Rose said she had been afraid of her mother and thought she was a monster. Rose admitted she had felt guilty for her mother's death her whole life and needed to let go of that guilt. The entity then began to grin and told Rose it was doing this because her mind was so welcoming. The entity transformed into a tall, long-haired monster that looked like Rose's mother, always smiling. The entity chased Rose and attacked her, saying she couldn't escape her own mind. Rose fought back, broke its arm, and set it on fire by throwing a lantern at it. She then ran out of the burning house. Rose went to Joel's apartment and apologized for involving him in her problems and for what she did during their relationship. She asked if she could stay and sleep there, and if Joel would stay with her while she slept. Joel agreed, but gave her a creepy smile, Suddenly, Joel attacked her. Rose ran outside but found herself back at her mother's house. Joel called out to her and scared, Rose ran back inside the house. Joel asked her to open the door, and Rose encountered the entity again. It came closer, tore off its own face, and then stretched her mouth open to enter. Joel broke down the door and saw Rose pouring kerosene on herself. She turned around with a creepy smile and set herself on fire in front of a terrified Joel. The movie ended there.